If you're feeling overwhelmed by the stress and pressure of trading, don't worry, you're not alone. Check the links in the description below for the latest issue from Fibonacci-Traders newsletter, free, the correlation between mental health and trading performance. Hey there, Tamir from Fibonacci-Traders.com here with the daily market recap. Please hit the like, subscribe, share with friends, will be much appreciated. Let's see the chart. With FOMC coming up tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern side, let's see where SPY will take us. In my opinion, 25 basis points is already priced in. We have this blue trend line to the upside. We have a gap to the downside, the red trend line to the downside. So, 25 basis points, and we can expect this blue trend line to break up to the upside with 403, 410, and maybe all the way to 415, 418 in the coming days. If Mr. Powell is preparing some kind of a surprise with the raise of 50 base points, this gap over here will get filled very fast with another gap to the downside all the way to the red trend line. And if this trend line will fail to hold, we are going 370 and maybe even all the way to 358. Stay tuned for tomorrow, another roller coaster ride brought to you by FOMC. QQQ. Continuation to the upside, very strong because there are no financials names in the QQQ. 310 broke to the upside. It was a very tough resistance area, as you can see. This trend line here from resistance broke to the upside, retraced, now bounced as support, continuation. Now let's see where QQQ is taking us. It all depends on the FOMC. Good news, we are going to retest this white trend line. Bad news, and we are going back inside this downtrend channel, probably all the way to 300 and maybe even lower towards this yellow trend line over here. No one knows. This is why we sit on hands and wait for the decision and let the price show us where are we going. IWM, another doji, this time above the 176. As we can see, the 176 was support, resistance, now a doji off the 176. Above it, we have a slight gap to the downside. Let's see where it will take us tomorrow. Dow Jones, a doji, but below the 325. 325, look left, very strong support, broke to the downside. Now doji below it, might get a trend reversal back to 320 and maybe even 315. We do have here high, lower high, lower high. We have this blue trend line. Let's see where price take us. Bitcoin on the daily. You know these trend lines because you follow me on Twitter, you saw previous videos. This trend line is holding very strong resistance for the past 4 days. As you can see, trend lines are the true support resistance for price action. Breaking above it, we have this trend line. If bulls will give up on this trend line, we can assume with high probability that this red trend line will get retested as support. And if this one fails, we have the orange, yellow, and maybe all the way back to the purple one. All we have to do is follow price, use levels and trend lines to manage our risk. Ethereum with a very nice broadening formation. As we can see, trend line is holding the higher highs, trend line holding the lower lows, broadening formation. Trend lines are the true support resistance for price action. 5 days, this trend line is holding a very tough resistance for price. If bulls will give up, we can assume price will retrace back 1690, 1620, and we have all the levels to the downside. If bulls will have enough power to break up and above this trend line, we have Fibonacci levels to the upside as future potential resistance. SMH went all the way to 255. 255 was a very tough resistance over here. Now we have a doji. Let's see if after FOMC decision we can get continuation towards this white trend line. Otherwise, we're going back, retesting this red trend line to the downside. Look left, down and left. This red trend line is holding the higher lows. XLF, nothing special, bouncing between the 31, 32.20 to the upside. We have a doji gap between them, and we know that more than 80% of all gaps will get filled. Natural gas went back, retesting the 216 area. Now on the positive side, we have this gap over here. If we can get a bounce, we can assume that we have also here a double bottom scenario, but it's still early. We need validation. We need a few days above the 250 area, holding above the 250 area, as it did before over here, and then continuation to the upside. Then this W formation, double bottom formation, will get validate maybe all the way to 435. Oil bounced off the blue trend line almost. Now we need continuation to the upside with 70.20 is next test for the bulls. Then we have 72. Look left, 72 will not give up very easy as resistance because it was a very important support. Breaking above the 72, we have all the levels to the upside to follow as future resistance. XLE, not surprising. This gap over here from a few days ago got filled, but now we have a gap to the downside, and we know that more than 80% of all gaps will get filled maybe even tomorrow after FOMC decision. Apple finally breaking up above and closing above this red trend line. If you go line chart, much easier on the eyes to see the red trend line that was a very strong resistance for Apple. Now finally breaking up and above. Let's see continuation. Then we can take Fibonacci, swing low, swing high. Next will be 167 and maybe all the way to 180. All depends on FOMC. We can also take Fibonacci from here. Short-term trend from this low to this high. 160, 165, 170. But one day at a time, one candle at a time. Apple looking good. Let's hope FOMC will not destroy it. Tesla finally breaking up and above and closing above with a very nice bullish to the upside above the 185. This 185 held a very tough resistance since beginning of March. Now we have this red trend line, then 217, and then we have this gap over here. But one day at a time, one candle at a time. Bad news from FOMC, and this gap to the downside will get filled. Good news, this gap to the upside will get filled. Not tomorrow, of course, but in the coming days. Google, very nice continuation of this double bottom that we have identified a week or so ago. If you follow me on Twitter and you saw previous videos, you know this double bottom. And now, Very strong continuation above the 103. Next will be the 108. Look left, 108 over here. Resistance, support, very important level of support and resistance. So, all depends on FOMC tomorrow. If market will like what Mr. Powell have to say, this 108 will get break to the upside towards 114 and 122. If not, we can assume with high probability that this red trend line will get revisit once again very soon. AMD, another perfect example of why trend lines are the true support resistance for price action. This trend line held and still holding as resistance for the higher highs. 3 consecutive dojis of this trend line. Some kind of a pullback will be very healthy at this point, because AMD since October lows went up 80%. So some kind of a pullback will be healthy, same as it did here, same as it did here, but once again it all depends on FOMC. If Mr. Market will like what Mr. Powell have to say, this trend line will get break up towards 106 and 116. If not, we are going with a gap to the downside towards this trend line over here. At this point, please hit the like and subscribe to this channel. It will be much appreciated. Help me grow and spread this channel. Share with friends. NVDA holding above this trend line over here with 3 consecutive dojis. Looks like NVIDIA, same as AMD, is waiting for the decision on the rate. Shopify, finally, after getting many messages, what's going on Shopify, here we are. Double top, double bottom scenario is getting validated, finally breaking up and above the 45 area. Now let's see continuation, 47, and then we have this gap over here at the 48 area, and maybe all the way to 52. But Shopify, same as Google, is starting to validate this double bottom scenario. Meta, trend lines, holding price, grinding up slowly above this trend line. Bulls are hanging in there not to fall towards this void over here, because bulls know that more than 80% of all gaps will get filled. And if Mr. Powell will surprise us tomorrow, this gap will get filled. Maybe even tomorrow, maybe not tomorrow, but until the end of the week, will not be surprising. Microsoft, 283 was the top of this double bottom. Now retracing back slightly. 270 is holding with a doji. Let's see if we can get a bounce back towards this red trend line. I will not do anything special until we get the rate decision. You do your own due diligence, but expect super volatility and a roller coaster ride. Amazon struggling with the 100, but looking good, breaking above this short-term downtrend channel. Now we have, if we look on the bigger time frame, we have this low over here from December and January, and we have this low over here, a higher low. So on a bigger time frame, we have higher lows. Now let's see higher highs above the 103, 107. But once again, FOMC tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern side. I will sit on my hands until then. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please hit a like, subscribe, share with friends, will be much appreciated. Don't forget, check the links in the description below. 10% until end of March for Fibonacci-Traders program. The only program with lifetime access, support, guidance, all Discord channels. The only program that will transform you to become your own indicator. Until the next video, stay safe.